welcome in to Shootin the Shield here on 365 Sports on our NFL and Cowboys channels. I'm Jacob Wilson. I'm joined by Tanner Carlson. Emery Winter is over there producing for us. And Tanner, what a strange couple of days in the football world, right?
It's been a little weird. There's been a lot of movement. I know we got the news today. Mike Leach passing away. That's just an all-around football personality that I think everybody kind of loves. You know, so it's kind of a real bummer, but there's been some other highs, some good news with the Cowboys signing T.Y. Hilton. I'm not sure how many people really penciled that one in. If it wasn't Odell, is it going to be T.Y.? And then plus the game. we kind of got a little bit of a scare.
Yeah, that was really, really strange. And me being a Baylor grad, it was kind of funny to watch because Jalen Petrie was out there balling out for the Texans, and it was a little annoying watching the game with my wife in the room, and because she'd be like, "Oh, that's Jalen Petrie, how fun!" And I was just like, "Oh, come on, like this is."
Are you a guy that follows your college players into the NFL, but do you root for them, like in terms of?
RG3 was the biggest conundrum as a Baylor guy.
Right, that's a Redskin.
He played for, at the time, the Redskins, and so it's definitely like I'll root for him as an individual, but that one was a special case. Jalen Petrie,
you kind of wanted them to lose.
And it wasn't just a Baylor guy; it was Baylor's all-time guy.
Right.
So, I'll begrudgingly root for that situation, but luckily, I haven't had to deal with that all that often, so it's easier to root for my Baylor guys in the NFL.
My big conundrum was Colt McCoy. He had a stint with the Redskins at the time as well, and it was like I think he played Dallas on Thanksgiving, and he beat them, and I was like, this kind of sucks. But I'm also the kind of guy, like, I'm the person that's like, you're no longer on my team. You're dead to me. Like, I will root for you at Cleveland, but when you cross enemy lines and you're over there in Washington, no, I'm no longer rooting for Colt McCoy.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. That's just a football guy being a football guy loyal to his team. Before we get back into that, let's talk about the passing of a legend, not in the NFL, but in college football, and the Pirate, Mike Leach. I know anyone who even remotely follows college football, if you follow one, you probably are aware of the other. And Mike Leach was just a huge personality, and it's really rare. And I feel like the same kind of thing happened when Vin Scully died. It's really rare when there is a guy in sports who's beloved seemingly by everybody.
Right.
And it's obviously tragic when you lose somebody like that because it's so rare that it's just universally loved.
Right. And he's not that old, right? I mean, he was 61. Is that correct?
61 years old.
Yeah. And so, he's also not a Texas guy, but he feels like a Texan, right? Like he feels like he's home whenever, like with his stint at Texas Tech, like that felt right.
And they still love him up there in Lubbock.
Yeah, of course. And I think every team that has been coached by Mike Leach, that fan base has always appreciated what he did for those teams, and he never had any huge national success in terms of BCS wins or national championships or anything like that. But the guy was a staple in college football just based on personality alone. I know one of my favorite, one of the many favorite sound bites was him going on about a 5-minute rant about this guy who asked him about wedding advice. And he just went on a rant, just went on and on and on. And people were just like, well, are we going to talk about the game? And that's what he wanted to talk. And most of the time in all of his press conferences, it was what Leach wanted to talk about, not really about the game.
Yeah. And we had that clip on our 3 to 6 show that just concluded a little while ago, and he's just a quote machine. Yeah, kind of like Yogi Berra in a way. I mean, I don't want to say it's my favorite one, but it's one that hasn't really been talked about. Is when they had the COVID season in all of sports, really, but at SEC Media Days, Lane Kiffin was walking by everyone and he had his Ole Miss mask on, and as soon as he gets close enough to Mike Leach just reaches out and tries to pull it off of his face, which at the time everyone was like, a lot of people were still super scared of the disease. And so it was one of those things where he was one of the few people that could have gotten away with doing that,
right?
And also get a lot of laughs at the same time.
You're exactly right. But yeah, a staple in the football world. I'm not just going to say college football. I think all of football will miss Mike Leach.
Yes, all-time football guy, and rest in peace, Pirates. Swing that sword, baby. What about the Cowboys, though? We gotta touch on them for a second for our Cowboys channel, and because we are here in the heart of Texas. Scared the bejesus out of.
I think a lot of fans were probably not the ideal game. Now, I had mentioned in the previous week that I think the Texans were going to hang around a little bit, but I didn't think at any point I said that I thought the Cowboys were going to be in control of the game for the most part. I don't think that was the case. Now, they started the game off hot. Opening drive, went down the field fairly easily, scored a touchdown. Opening possession for the defense, 3 and out, a punt, and then Kevontae Turpin fumbles, and the Texans get the ball back in scoring position. And then I think kind of all the air that had accumulated from that excitement just kind of got sucked out. Yeah. And for some reason, the Cowboys could never really get back on track after that.
Yeah, it was really, really strange and just kind of like a frustrating, like, why can't they break free and actually get out in front of this Texans team? And it was weird that the Texans were shuffling Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll in and out, and Driscoll actually looked okay at times. Yeah. And it was just like Damian Pierce, he had a good game running. Amari Rodgers came, getting cut by, not good enough for Aaron Rodgers, but he's going to go to Houston and actually, make some plays there for the Texans, of all people. He had a touchdown in the game. And Jalen Petrie, 9 tackles. He was just all over the field. He got, blown over by Ezekiel Elliott. And it was one of those things where he bounced back up and he said, you know what? Okay, I woke up. I'm ready to play.
It's that kind of game.
And boy, did he!
Yeah,
man, he was fantastic though. But the Cowboys ultimately, they did what a good team does. They found a way to win when they're not playing at their best.
And I've always been a fan of the saying, great teams find bad ways to win. That's exactly what the Cowboys did. It was an ugly game. They didn't play their best. The offensive line probably looked their worst since maybe Tampa Bay, since week 1.
Yeah.
They across the board.
Josh Ball, how about that? I don't want to dog him too much, but
it was his first career action in a live game.
Yeah, but my eyes are not immediately drawn to the offensive line when I'm watching football, and I was actually having my eyes drawn toward him, and I said, oh, wow, this is the reason why the offense doesn't have any juice right now, because that right side of the line, it was bad enough to where they shifted Jason Peters over. He hadn't played over on the right side of the ball in over a decade, and that's a Hall of Fame career. Right. And so it's good that they were able to patch that up, but, man, Josh Ball, reset, man, because that was –
well, I would like to not see him for the remainder of the season, regardless of the right tackle situation. I know Terrence Steele is out for the season, but I think you're just going to have to try something. Tyler Smith to the right side or Jason Peters to the right side. Once Tyron Smith, we got news today. He's looking likely to play against the Jacksonville Jaguars this upcoming week, so you can put him back at his blindside spot, move Tyler Smith in, or move Jason Peters in and figure out what you want to do at the right tackle spot. There's depth. We've got guys that are versatile. It's just you got to find, the right fit. And I definitely thought Dak played a bad game. He wasn't seeing the field well. He wasn't dealing with pressure as well as we'd like, except for on that final drive. He looked like a prototypical could be MVP type player that Dallas fans want him to be. He looked like that in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, heard it first here. Dak Prescott is the MVP. According to Tanner Carlson.
That is not what I said. He's an MVP caliber player, not that he would win MVP.
Yeah. I feel like I heard it a little differently.
You heard it differently? Yeah, people will freak out about that take. I'll tell you that much. But
you might as well spit some controversy while we're here.
Why not? Why not? How about T.Y. Hilton?
Yeah, that kind of puts the OBJ rumors to bed, right. And we were already getting tired of that cycle spinning, and I'm a little relieved, to be completely honest, because I was getting tired of will he or won't he. Mm-hmm. I mean, T.Y. Hilton, let's see if the old man still got some juice.
Yeah, and I think it'd be great in terms of talking to guys like Michael Gallup or a CeeDee Lamb, and just in terms of route running and little tricks and little veteran moves that he can teach them, these younger guys. I don't think he's really going to be he's not going to be the 2A or 2B type guy behind CD and Gallup, but I do think he has a role on this team, and I'd like to see him get some action even against Jacksonville.
I've got a feeling that his role is going to be, a veteran locker room guy, but also he's the best option that they seem to have is a guy who can just burn you down the field. I mean, that at least in his younger days, that's what he was capable of doing. But the Cowboys haven't really had a guy like that this season. They've managed to win without it. But adding another weapon, it's like similar to Deshaun Jackson, in my opinion,
right? Like
but not
getting a guy
same.
like that, and then also talk about the wide receiver group a little bit more. James Washington is supposed to be on his way back to the roster.
He played.
Yeah, oh, he did play.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. I didn't realize he even played because
it was easy to forget.
He didn't really do much.
You guess what his stat line was?
I'm assuming zero catches.
For zero.
Yeah.
For zero.
So,
and that maybe he's not all the way healthy, but James Washington.
Hey, got his feet wet. Got put his toe in the water a little bit.
Yeah,
so
he put one toe in the water.
Yeah, and that was about it. So, but yeah, that's I am not worried. I think I've seen a much larger sample size from the Cowboys to not worry. Now, if we go into Jacksonville, lay another egg, either scathe by with a close victory or even lose this game going into Philly, it could be ugly on Christmas Eve.
Oh, big time. But we touched on it last week, but one game I want to talk about before we get into our recast is this Falcons-Saints game. And the only reason I want to talk about it is because Desmond Ridder will make his NFL debut. What do you think of that?
I think it's the right call. I just feel bad for Mariota because he finally has been named the starter for an entire season, and he's like actually taking a decent amount of advantage of that opportunity. He's not playing great, but he's not playing bad. He's on a very poor team, a team that was basically telling the entire league we're going to rebuild, and he had them in second place within the division for a short amount of time, and they're still within the hunt to win the division.
Yeah. Did you see the Spider-Man meme? It was 4 Spider-Men in the NFC South pointing at each other with losing records. Like, who actually wants to take control and win this division? Like, the Falcons are especially frustrating to me, though. I've been, bitching and moaning about them all season long, and like, they don't have the decency to just suck.
That's a great way to put it. I love that.
They hang around in games. They win some games. And I'm not a big time gambler by any stretch. I grew up here in Texas, and the only other place I've ever really lived is Hawaii, where gambling is also illegal. And I would find it very, very frustrating to gamble in any capacity in a Falcons game.
Yeah, ask Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. How about that? He's got a 1-year suspension. He's a Jaguar now, by the way.
Yeah.
But he's got a 1-year suspension for gambling, and I think it was a really low stakes bet, too.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. I think he put like maybe $100 on Atlanta or something. But anyway,
I don't know. It seems slightly hypocritical to me. I don't know, but
slightly, yeah, a little bit. But anyway, hey, we want to get to our recast. I know you're excited about this one.
I am. I woke up this morning, got yourself a gun, baby.
You got yourself a gun.
All right.
Anybody who knows that reference.
We are recasting The Sopranos today. And Tanner, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, I'll start off, and we're gonna recast, and I'm just gonna go down the list of the main character, Tony Soprano, and the only Tony in the NFL that can even somewhat resemble the big man himself, the boss man. That's Tony Saragusan, the goose.
The goose.
The goose is loose, and he really made a name for himself really throughout his playing career, but Hard Knocks was a big stepping stone for him and a big personality. One of the first Hard Knocks seasons, him and Shannon Sharp just absolutely dominated the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens.
Team was so good.
And then he's on the sideline, and the old-timer, rest in peace both to not only the actor who plays Tony Soprano.
That's actually a good connection now that I think of it.
But yeah, there's a lot of similarities between the two. He's an Italian guy, and
Same first name and everything.
He wants the gabagool.
Wants the gabagool.
So there's my connection. Yeah.
I went with Bill Belichick simply because, I mean, I said it last week. The NFL is a mafia, and who is the boss of this mafia? And I couldn't think of anyone better than Bill Belichick because I didn't want to say Roger Goodell because, I mean, he's been recast already so many times.
Right.
But Bill Belichick, he's got the scowl. He's, and with age, he's kind of put on the LBs.
Uh-huh.
And so I think he's just the most made man in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
And even with these teams, the Patriots right now kind of being, like Patriot fans, they've been spoiled, and now they're getting a taste of mediocrity.
The problem is that
Bill Belichick, he will never get fired.
No, well, the problem is with the Patriots situation is that they're having a down year and they're still above 500 and going into week 15, or whatever week we're in. 7-6.
15. Yeah,
15.
That's right.
Well, I just kind of took a guess on that. All right, my next recast, we're going to recast Christopher.
Moltisanti.
And I think Christopher is, the equivalent, and it's been as much as said as Vince Gilligan, who is the creator of Breaking Bad. He's the Jesse Pinkman of The Sopranos, if you will. I mean, and that's kind of who Jesse Pinkman was kind of molded after. Young, hothead, up and coming, rising through the ranks. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, but potential is there. Started off hot and has, kind of had a downturn towards the end of the series. I won't spoil anything in case anybody hasn't watched the show that came out 20 years ago. But my guy Zeke, I think Zeke is a good comparison to Christopher because he has kind of had a bad rap for Cowboys fans, or really through the NFL. Yeah, he's washed up. He's not this guy anymore. He's not that guy anymore. But I just think that he's the workhorse. He's the guy that gets the job done. And towards the end of his career, he will be very much appreciated in NFL and Cowboy lore.
Well, hopefully Tony Siragusa won't kill him. It's a 20-year-old show, guys. I'm not going to worry about spoilers. Emery, have you watched The Sopranos? Okay, good.
Good.
I mean, not that I care.
What's actually funny about us doing the show? I just finished the series maybe like 2 months ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's fresh on your mind.
It's very fresh, yeah.
All right, Christopher for me, I'm going with Justin Fields because, I mean, for a good chunk of the show, Chris, he just wanted to be a made guy, and he was doing everything he could as the young up-and-comer to go out of his way to, be made. And Justin Fields, I think he's on the right trajectory.
Gotcha.
He really struggled in his rookie season in Chicago. He struggled at the beginning of this year too, but they found a way to use him in a way that, he's playing so much better. They've shifted that Bears offense to fit his strengths, and I think that makes him on his way up to being made in the NFL as a quarterback, and so that's why I'm going with Justin Fields.
All right, now here are some fun characters for The Sopranos, and I'm really looking forward to Paulie. We're going to talk a little bit about Paulie here, and anyone who knows Paulie is he's a little annoying. He kind of gets under your skin a little bit, but he's all reliable, right? I mean, he's a guy that has been around the mafia forever. Just simply can't get away from him.
He is in the army, kid.
And I think Lovie Smith is a perfect example of he's never going to be considered one of the best characters. He's kind of just has stuck around, and I kind of you almost just feel bad for the guy at some point, and he's been put in a really bad situation with the Texans, and they've got a mark out on him already. They're already asking for his head, and so just one of the old guys that has just stuck around, one of the OGs of the NFL, Lovie Smith for the Houston Texans is my Paulie.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot. I went a different direction, which for Paulie Walnuts, I just wanted a guy who seemed super Italian because Paulie, he's like the most over-the-top Italian of that cast, which is really saying something. And so I went with Nick Sirianni.
Okay.
Because, I mean, he's kind of got that. If you're not an Eagle fan, you hate this guy.
You kind of don't like him, yeah.
Because, I mean, he's just really obnoxious, and he kind of goes out of a way to be a stereotype of himself. And it's like opposing fans and opposing coaches. Nick Sirianni, he's just really obnoxious on the sideline and, very animated with the way he conducts himself.
Right, yeah.
And, if there was food on the sideline, he'd be out there doing this.
Well, I mean, if there was cold cuts, something for him to snack on, he'd be eating on it, he'd be snacking on it. But Sirianni, is that an Italian name?
Sounds really
it
Italian
sounds.
name.
I feel like I need to Sirianni. I feel like I need to do that whenever I say his name.
It's got a vowel on the end, and he kind of looks Italian.
Yeah.
And so, who do you have? Who do we got next? Bobby
All
or
right,
AJ?
we're gonna go Bobby. Big Bobby. This guy has been. He was a staple in the show. He lasted a lot longer than I thought. I thought he was done for he took care of Junior, and so he was kind of the caretaker for the old man for a while, and then once that situation passed, Tony gave him a little bit more responsibility, and I feel like just because he was always the big guy, Eddie Lacy was the big guy he was the workhorse. He never got enough credit at Green Bay. He had a short-lived tenure as a stud running back in the league, but he did a lot of the dirty work for Aaron Rodgers, and I think Bobby he kind of plays that underdog role a little bit.
Yeah, and he also got really fat.
It just is huge. Yeah, it just got really fat. And that was probably the biggest joke that I could have made out of that, is just the fact that Eddie Lacy was fat.
I was waiting for you to say it, which is why I had to, because it didn't leave your mouth. But I'm a little salty because my fantasy league drafted early that year. In late July, because it was the only time we could get together. And I drafted Eddie Lacy 3rd overall. And then the Packers, they have their training camp, and I'm like, who the hell is this defensive tackle running the ball for the Green Bay Packers? And I just, this is going to be a long fantasy season.
Yep.
And it was.
Yep.
Big Bobby for me is Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman.
Love it.
For the Detroit Lions. Big guy who he didn't exactly, he was kind of a, smaller, not thought of, player. Not player as player as in role, but as time progressed, he started actually doing things. Bobby, he didn't make his first hit until very late into the season.
Right.
And they actually talked about that. And Penei Sewell, he caught a freaking pass last week.
And it iced the game. It was a big-time catch.
The Lions are so much fun this year. And because he made that catch, that made me think, all right, he finally...
That's his Bobby moment.
That's his Bobby moment. He took out that first hit.
I love it. Hey, going down the list. All right. We're at AJ, the young boy. Tony Soprano's own blood, his baby boy, the youngest child of the two that they have. And he really starts off this show as kind of a punk kid, and is really kind of a punk kid throughout the entire show. He's kind of obnoxious, and he's just a troublemaker, spoiled rich kid that, has ties to the mob but doesn't really know the full extent of his actions and stuff. And so Baker Mayfield is my AJ of the NFL. I just think that Baker has he's had to take some big hits in life in terms of straightening up a little bit and attitude adjustments and things like that. And I don't know if he plays well with others, and AJ always had a tough time kind of fitting in. And so, he's my spoiled brat of the NFL.
Yeah, and AJ also had the moment on the football field in the show where
he did.
He made a couple of tackles, and all Tony and all of his buddies were out there, the biggest dudes in the stands, and they absolutely went nuts. I feel like that moment for Baker Mayfield was just this past week.
100%.
When the Rams actually, I can't believe they won that game.
There's no chance they should have.
No. My AJ, though, Zach Wilson.
Okay,
nice. Simply because he's been pouting like a little boy for the past 2 weeks since he got benched. He's just... sitting around the sideline, moping around, watching Mike White take his job, not doing anything about it. Kind of like when AJ would, excuse his laziness and not having any direction for climate change or global warming or whatever. Stuff that had absolutely nothing to do with his life.
Right.
But, simply because he's been, mopey and emotional. That's why I'm going with Zach Wilson.
I like that. That's a really good comparison. All right, we got one more, right?
Yes.
Are we going with Carmela, the wife of Tony Soprano? And mine is Samantha Ponder. I think that's a good comparison. She is, I don't know the best way to put this. She is vital to a pregame show, NFL Live, and she has done she has made a name for herself that way. I just don't think she's anybody's favorite character on any show. Shout out to Samantha Ponder. You've made a career for yourself. Congratulations.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
And she just irks me. And Carmela, although Carmela, if you look at it in a real world scenario,
I think we have differing opinions on Carmela.
Man. Okay. Because I was going to say, like, in terms of a real world scenario, Carmela actually has a valid point in just about every single aspect of the show, of being upset with Tony and him going around cheating on her, things like that. But I'm just like, he's a mob boss. What do you expect from him? You married into this. You knew what your role was before. And so I don't know. Samantha Ponder has caused a little trouble for some other sports figures out there. So I don't know. You knew what you were getting into whenever you jumped into this game.
I mean, I think Carmela is a badass, man.
Really?
And Edie Falco, who plays her, I think she's gorgeous. And I can see how you arrived at Sam Ponder in that way. But Sam Ponder, she's also married to Christian Ponder, former NFL mafia member. But yeah, I like the casting, but I don't necessarily agree with you on people and what they thought of Carmela. Just because I thought she was a badass, and she took a lot, but I mean, she
stuck up for herself.
She stuck up for herself
for sure. She don't take anything.
Yeah, and remember when she fell in love with that Italian guy?
It was his cousin from Italy.
Yeah.
It had a ponytail, all that stuff.
Yeah, and she pretty much just told Tony, "I'm in love with him. What are you going to do about it?"
What are you going to do?
He didn't do anything. That being said, Carmela for me is Brandon Cooks, because a badass dude, badass receiver in the league. But when the trade deadline came, the Texans did him dirty. Didn't trade him. He complained, said, "You're messing with my career," just the same way Tony messed with Carmela's heart.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's a great way. All right. How do we do, Emery? Objections, anything that you would change? Any suggestions on your side of things?
I thought y'all did pretty well. I agree with them. All right.
Fair enough.
What's your take on Carmela? Good character, bad character, annoying, strong?
I mean, annoying, but you got to respect her for all the shit that she gets put up with.
I think so too. I agree. Yeah. She's a strong female character, but it also comes away as like the naggy wife. And and it's just like it's hard to balance that line. And I think that's kind of the point. I think that's the whole character. She's written that way on purpose, is to be, hey, I'm a strong-headed mob wife, but I'm also not going to take anything from you either.
Yeah.
So, but there's our recasting of The Sopranos. Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's a new glaring, obvious casting that we whiffed on, please do let us know. I know we pitched, before we get into our favorites and underdogs, I know we pitched the Wonderlic last week.
Yeah.
But Emery is a nerd, and he's in college, and he's got real finals to take. And so we didn't feel like it was very fair for us to force him to take another test. Yeah. And so
he's already mentally drained as it is.
We'll definitely get that in, because I'm still curious about who is the dumbest in the room.
Yeah. And it will probably be me. I'm not going to lie about that. But I'm interested to see. So you're welcome, Emery, but I'm going to start studying already. I might already take a couple practice tests by next week.
Emery, how do you feel about the Wonderlic? You're currently in school. You're getting those reps taking tests right now.
I feel okay. I'm a decent test taker, so I feel decent about it. But then also, from what I hear about it, it's just like not like any other test that you've taken. So I'm a little worried.
Yeah. My thing is it's timed. I was never good under pressure under a timed test. I like having the entire class period to take my test. I was always one of the last ones to turn my test in. So
what are y'all's thoughts on performance enhancers like Adderall?
Oh, I say it's free game.
Okay. All right.
I say if that's what you need to get through a Wonderlic test, which is 12 minutes, 15 minutes, then
I got
by
some
all
pretty
means.
bad ADHD. I'll say that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, everyone does in, my generation and your generation. Everyone has ADHD. It just
That's what they've just diagnosed the
you
entire.
know what my dad says? He likes to say ADHD didn't exist before they stopped whipping kids in school. Which, bull take dad, but I don't know if that's exactly true.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm self-diagnosed ADHD and OCD, but I've never actually seen a doctor for either one.
Oh, well, you might want to get that checked
No,
out.
I'm good.
All right. Favorites and underdogs. And I'll kick it off first with this one. My favorite this week is the New England Patriots. We were talking about them a little bit ago here, and they're playing the Raiders in Vegas. They're actually 1.5-point favorites on the road.
Interesting.
And I'm picking them, one, because I think Bill Belichick, to circle back around to the Soprano casting, I think he's going to try and take a hit out on Josh McDaniels because it's an old coach that left him. And look, the Raiders, how do you lose to Baker Mayfield in Los Angeles?
After 48 hours of being on the roster?
The Rams were bad when they had everyone healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on top of that, and I like the Bill Belichick and the Josh McDaniels kind of storyline there, but the fact that Matt Patricia, a former defensive coordinator, is the one taking over that role, and it's kind of not been a very smooth process in terms of working with the second-year guy and Mac Jones. I think Josh McDaniel is going to try to pull out all the stops and just be like, look, this is what you're missing out on. I can show you that I'm a better offensive coordinator than who you replaced me with. And it's an insult, quite frankly, that you did.
Don't lose to that Rams team and expect me to have any faith in you.
100%.
Simply, it's not so much a praise on the Patriots that I'm picking them as my favorite. It's more of an indictment on the Raiders because – man, that was rough. Won a little money in our Captain Showdown League with Van Jefferson, of all people, scoring a touchdown at the end. But my underdog is the Titans. They're down 3 points against the Chargers on the road in L.A., and I'm taking the Titans because I expect Mike Vrabel to rebound from an embarrassing loss to the Jaguars. They've still got Derrick Henry, and that Chargers defense ain't slowing anybody down in the running game, and Derrick Henry, I think he's going to thrash this Chargers team to pieces, and that's why I'm taking the Titans.
I think the Chargers, obviously, they're a conundrum, and no one can really figure them out, but the Dolphins played about as terribly as they possibly could, and they snuck a victory out of that. I mean, Tua had completed 4 passes in, the fourth quarter, and they were still in that game and had a chance to win. So, I'm not as big on the Chargers as I was going into this season, that's for sure. All right, favorite of the week. I like Cincinnati. They are 3.5-point favorites.
My favorite from last week.
And I think that they've got a great opportunity coming off of a horrendous performance a week ago with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just getting annihilated by the San Francisco 49ers with Brock Purdy as your quarterback in his first career start, and you just get blown out. I think Cincinnati with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and that team starting to get healthy, I think it could spell trouble for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In fact, not only do I love 3.5 points, I'm willing to put a touchdown on it.
Yeah, I like that take.
Underdog, just got done talking about the Dolphins. They had a terrible game last week against the Chargers, just played terrible. But the fact that they're 7.5-point dogs against the Bills
seems harsh.
It seems a little harsh, and they are a team that have beaten the Bills, one of 3 teams that have already beaten the Bills. Divisional game, it's going to be a huge game. I think it's a bigger game for Miami than it is Buffalo. In terms of where their seasons are at, so I think the Dolphins cover that 7.5-point spread. I think they make it close.
Yeah.
Could possibly win.
Yeah, I like those games. Before we get to Emory, I just want to recap. We were 3 of 4 last week. Bengals covered over the Browns. The Jets managed to cover against the Bills, even though they did not win. They were 10-point underdogs in that game. They only lost by 8. And the Eagles covered with ease against the Giants. Man, that was a rough game.
Yeah.
And the only one we didn't get was your favorite.
Was my
Vikings.
The Vikings.
No, your underdog was the Vikings.
Yeah.
And they did not cover. They lost to the Lions.
Nope. Yep. And the Lions, kudos. Started out 1-6. They're now 5-1. in the last 6 games.
Yeah, it's a fun team.
They are really fun. Well, I enjoyed Hard Knocks for the first time in years.
Yeah.
I actually watched this year's Hard Knocks because I thought Dan Campbell, Jamal Williams were going to be studs. They were.
Yeah.
Fantastic show. And it's showing up on the field now.
Yeah. I need to get on his workout routine.
All right, Emery, what do you got, dude?
All right, so for my favorite, I got the Vikings -4, and I'm just going off this based off of having a coach whenever I was younger that was not qualified to be a coach, and losing by 40, you lose the locker room immediately. Mm-hmm. So that Cowboys loss, that's not good. And then being in Minnesota, I mean, I just think the Vikings -4 all day.
Okay.
All day. And then my underdog is the Seahawks against the 49ers.
That's a bold one.
It's a bold pick, but I don't dislike it.
You got Brock Purdy, first road game. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the 49ers' first road game since I think I heard like October because they had that game in Mexico City.
Right.
And so you got Brock Purdy, road game in the second or the fake 12th man, I guess.
I'm okay with calling them the 12th man.
Yeah.
The
fake 12th man.
But I don't know. I feel like he gets rattled, and I feel like the Seahawks. I mean, they showed promise at the beginning of the season. I don't know. I think it's a must win for them.
I think you're right. I think their backs are against the wall a little bit more so than San Fran, and I think San Fran, after the game that they just had over Tampa Bay, they might be feeling a little bit too comfortable with Brock Purdy, and I could see a little sophomore slump in terms of his second start for sure.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think he's rookie of the year.
Already? Book it. All right, what are we going to talk a little bit of Cowboys? Jacksonville?
Yeah, they got the Jags this week. How are you feeling after that little nail biter that they had?
And what's the spread? Is it 4.5? Cowboys favored?
Yes.
4.5. I would think that they'd cover that. It's not unheard of for Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been kind of one of those teams that are just like slowly sneaking around and playing teams tough, but they're not nearly as fun as the Detroit Lions.
Oh no, they're not nearly that much fun. But Trevor Lawrence, man, he looked good last week. Got an impressive win.
They're what, 5-8? Is that right?
I think the Jags are 5-8. They looked good against the Titans, which, describing the Jaguars as looking good, that feels like a wrong statement. But Trevor Lawrence played really well. Receivers came out and played well. Zay Jones had an insanely good touchdown catch. I mean, I think the Cowboys win. I think they cover. But, I mean, after last week, man, like, don't fall asleep at the wheel because this Jaguars team, the Chargers will tell you too. Like, if you're caught sleeping, they can bite you. I
mean, when you really look at it, go back to the Colts game. The first 3 quarters of that game, it was 21-19. Like, we feel all nice and comfortable with that fourth quarter because they scored 33 unanswered in one quarter. But you're looking at the last 8 quarters, 7 of those quarters coming against 2 really bad teams, and Dallas struggling for the majority of the Colts game, and then really struggled primarily the entire Texans game. And so I can understand that there are some skeptics out there in terms of Cowboys fans, but again, you win games. No win is easy in the NFL. You book it when you can. You play your schedule, and that's kind of where I'm at. Until proven otherwise, I'm gonna roll with my Cowboys.
Yeah. Emery, how do you feel about the Dallas Cowboys this weekend?
Let's see. I don't know. I'm indifferent. I don't know. I just feel like after last week, I mean, they turned the ball over way too much. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I don't know. I guess I'm with y'all. I'll believe it whenever I see it. I don't know.
Yeah. What's the over-under on that, by the way?
It is 47.5 right now.
Ooh. I could see that being an under, to be honest with you.
You know what?
I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of points scored.
I'd be willing to put a wager on that if I were to take the over.
Okay.
With you, not with any bookies.
Okay. What do you want to say it out loud, or is this after? Is this after a show kind of bet?
Hey, you buy me a 6-pack of beer.
Deal. All right, I got the under. You got the over for a 6-pack.
All right, friendly competition. I think that's a tradition we should keep doing.
I think that's a fair. Games. Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
That's it, man. Yep.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Mike Leach.
No, I'm good.
No, the right thing to do is for me to say, Emery, what do you think? And then you say, I don't. But that being said,
I got to save all my thinking for the Wonderlic.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
oh, I thought you were gonna say your actual real college, but
Oh no! That he's not worried about finals anymore. He's solely focused on this Wonderlic test.
yeah, beating me and Tanner at a intelligence test will not help your future employment status whatsoever.
Want to tank it.
But
That's
that being
what the
said,
smile's for.
what's that?
I said that's what my smile's for.
That's right. You heard that, ladies. All right. For Tanner Carlson, Emery Winter, I'm Jacob Wilson. Thanks for watching Shootin the Shield, powered by 365 Sports on our Cowboys and NFL channels. Have a good one, everyone.